Welcome back to the Metal Lounge. On today's episode, I'm joined by Ben.
What up, YouTube? It's me.
On today's episode, we're going to be deciding who the big four of deathcore are, our favourite bands in the genre, and our top 5 heavy bands. Join us for all that and more on today's episode of the Metal Lounge.
I feel like I'm doing like jury duty, only instead of like being called upon my civil right to go and like help the courts, I'm being called upon as a white man to talk about like opinions that no one's asked for. Do you know what I mean? That's like, you got to be on a podcast, Ben. You're white.
Yeah,
you're a white guy.
You signed up for this when you
Come
chose your
on.
character creation as white.
You know, it's been a while since we last hung out. Not that like your audience would know because they're
Fuck
not.
the audience.
If you need any help, if he's hurting you, let me know. We can sort it out. Right?
Audience isn't here, man. It's just me and you.
I did think they'd be a bit quite small, really, wouldn't they? Fit in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get the laugh track ready. Sorry.
No, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about. I sound really excited, don't I?
You sound it.
I'm so excited to talk about. I am. I'm excited that we get to chat about all things heavy. I don't feel like I get a lot of opportunity to do that.
When I think of heavy bands, I think Ben Hampshire. Don't know about you guys, but that's why.
Fucking hell, thanks for doxing me. Man, fucking laugh. I was thinking coming on to this, I was like, oh man, if Forrest wants me to talk about like Ronnie Radke, I'm just going to be at like a fucking loss for words. And it's like, he's a guy, I guess. Like, it's cool.
I thought you'd have some stronger opinions than that, but fair.
Well.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about Ronnie Radke today. Well, we just did, but that's maybe the end of it. So you used to be in a deathcore band, Drifted. So you have quite a lot of intel on the deathcore scene and how it's developed and stuff.
Yeah, because we were kind of that strain. Who I know they're kind of hardcore as well, but they were sort of a big influence, very big model of what we kind of wanted to be as a band. So yeah, definitely have the credentials, I think.
You were right there in that beatdown era, like when it started to get like slower and heavier. You were into it before then, you still follow it now. So who do you think are the big four of deathcore in your mind? So when I say big four, I don't mean current, I mean just of all time, because deathcore isn't that old.
It's tricky because I feel like deathcore has gone through different forms throughout its tenure.
Yeah.
As a genre, I like you say, it's not been a popularized genre for that long, but I feel like it's been going for a while. Obviously, it came up in the kind of the hardcore scene and also kind of the death metal scene. Hence, deathcore, right? It's in the name itself. But you've got bands like As Blood Runs Black, who are that kind of more riff oriented, and like the Black Dahlia Murder. Although they've kind of got the black metal aspects to them, I feel like some people would consider them deathcore, but then they don't have that many things like breakdowns and stuff, and I think for some people that aspect is what makes it deathcore.
Yeah, that's the core of it, isn't it? Because like most things that have core in kind of have breakdowns. Typically, that's what I've kind of noticed. But yeah, you probably know about more of the origins of it than me. But yeah, for me, like when I think of early deathcore, I think like Job for a Cowboy, Whitechapel, Suicide Silence, that sort of era. But was there anything before that?
All three of them could be like in the big four.
I think they've got to be in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we get to that, like, so what? Instead of going straight into the big four, like, who are we missing? Like, which bands are kind of credited for being the pioneers of deathcore?
I don't think you can have a conversation about it without putting Despised Icon in the mix. And not by extension of them, but they are associated. They sort of had a split together and things. Ion Dissonance as well. They were definitely on the mathier side of things at the start, but I mean, especially Despised Icon with the Years of Modern Man, they definitely went into that more into a deathcore kind of vein, especially the pig squeals, and there's lots of slam elements peppered in, and they've been going since 2002. So
yeah, that is old.
There's arguments they're not the OGs. I think the considered OG band is a band called Antagony. They're kind of considered I think they released something in '98.
Oh wow!
And that's kind of considered the birth of it.
You get this a lot with metalcore. It's like, where does the buck start and where does it stop? For me, I suppose it's bands that popularized it in a way. So like, if no one's ever heard of them, then yeah, you can give them some respect. But like, who actually brought it into the mainframe is what I'm more interested in.
It's hard to put it to one band.
No,
or even 4. But like we say, we're just doing it as kind of who we think if you had to pick them.
Let's go through each band and we'll decide if they're contenders, like very strong contenders. We'll come up with some sort of ranking system. But as you mentioned, Despised Icon, we've got to beg the question: do they belong in the big 4?
They're definitely some of the OGs, and I think their albums are great. They're kind of coming up albums. Ills of Modern Man and MVP, that era.
Yes.
Well,
I forgot what that was called. The white one.
Called. That's good. We're really good at this.
Has it got like three letters? Is it?
MVP is the song that's got the 3 letters.
Oh right.
MVP. Day of Mourning.
For me, my problem with Despised Icon is that they haven't been consistent enough. So they wanted to be a hardcore band. Obviously, they started Obey the Brave. Was it all of them or some of them?
No, I think it was just
the vocalist.
One of the vocalists. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But then the band sort of disbanded for a bit, didn't they?
Yeah,
they went
I guess
hiatus for quite a while.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Do we consider longevity? That's the thing, right? Even though they sort of quote unquote founders of the genre, is it that because they haven't necessarily been active the whole way through its current career, do they kind of count still?
I think you've got to consider lots of different factors, and for me, I think if you're saying the big 4, I think they've got to be. I think consistency is one of the things that I would look for in a big 4.
Okay.
Personally, if you can only choose 4, I don't think Despised Icon get in there for me.
Yeah, I think they definitely could, pushed out by other people, potentially. But if someone were to put them in their top 4, I wouldn't be like, how dare you? You know?
I'd understand it, yeah. A band we mentioned previously, Job for a Cowboy, what about them?
So, and this is the thing with genre stuff, right? They were like definitely core at the start, and then they sort of evolved their sound and became strict death metal. Yeah. So
death metal.
Again, that's the thing with it being, is it a legacy thing? Because they're even less consistent technically.
Yeah. No, I don't think they get in there. I don't think so. Because they haven't stuck at the sound. They pioneered it, respect to them, but they changed genre. Like then they didn't stick in it. So that's an easy one. So what about Whitechapel?
I think Whitechapel are definitely up there.
I think that's the first one I think I can safely say I think they could be in there.
But I think a big part of deathcore is all it vocal acrobatics, the ridiculous elements of vocals. And we see it now like massively with bands like Lorna Shore, Disembodied Tyrant, things like that. But Philly Bow was almost the guy who started that out.
Yeah.
There are people in other genres who were doing it first. Of course there was Vicer Exciser.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the elements that have that. He does his low guts and everything, and I think that's a big part of deathcore.
Yeah, he is like deathcore royalty, really. Like he is such a big character in the scene. Like he was there at Mitch Schlucker's memorial show having the standout performance. They've just brought out a recent album, which we'll get into later. Been so consistent. They've been one of the biggest bands. So I think they're up there. I think unless they get pushed down by other bands, we'll say they're the first band in there. Okay, speaking of Suicide Silence, would you have them up there?
Yeah, I think so. Again, we could talk about how they haven't necessarily been consistent. When I say consistency, it sounds almost like an insult. I don't want to sound like I'm saying like they've not been a consistent band. What I'm kind of saying, they maybe haven't been consistent to the formula of being a deathcore band, right? Obviously, they sort of shifted their genre a bit, especially with the change up of vocalists and everything.
I would sort of disagree a little bit there because they can't help Mitch dying. And yeah, they did make kind of they had one bad album with Doris Gate and that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I'm not saying that it's like, I'm not saying that the consistency is or like a quote unquote lack of consistency is bad. I'm just saying that stylistically, there could be an argument to say like, oh, maybe they haven't been deathcore for this period. So does that count as them not being deathcore? I would say no.
No, because they went straight back to deathcore.
Yeah,
they had
exactly.
in my eyes, every album has been deathcore. And they've got a lot of albums and they've been consistently one of the biggest bands in the genre. It was only their self-titled, they went a little bit more nu metal, but then they listened to the feedback and then they went straight back to deathcore after that, as far as I'm aware, unless I'm missing something.
I don't think so. Yeah.
So I actually think they've been very consistent, like compared to the other bands we talked about, this Night and Day compared to Job for a Cowboy. I
think that especially their first album shows a real development from death metal as well. That the Cleansing just sounds like, if you really look into I think it just sounds like a Cannibal Corpse album. Not in a bad way, that's great, that's sick.
Yeah.
Right? But you can see where they've obviously taken influence from and where they were trying to take their music. So yeah, 100% they go up there. Culturally as well, Mitch Lucker is a very big name.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you would say, I don't necessarily think they're the most consistent band. I'm not saying that, but if you were to say that, people would still be like, yeah, but
I don't know what you mean about not consistent. Like, is it just that album you're thinking of?
I'm using this as I'm using that as an example.
But why didn't you think they're consistent?
Well, because they changed their vocalist and stuff. That's what I mean. I'm not saying
the vocalist,
I'm not saying I don't think they're consistent. I'm saying someone could easily say that and have like a reason to say that.
That's
it's a drop in the water.
Yeah, a drop in the water compared to their legacy.
Yeah.
And actually, like, they've gone a little bit under the radar since then. They had a massive like bad publicity about that album. Every band has a dud, and most bands that have been going that long normally have more than one dud, and you'd still say they're consistent.
Yeah.
Next up, Chelsea Grin.
Yeah, I think they get their, what's it called? They can have their biscuits. That's not a saying.
They can have their biscuits.
They can have their They can have their fucking
their cake and eat it.
No, but they can do that if they want. I don't know. But I reckon they're contenders.
Yeah.
A lot of that era, 2007 to 2012 bands are like, I think that was the kind of
golden age.
It was the golden age, and it was the kind of the blow up of it and everything.
It's having another one recently, I think, which we'll get into later. But yeah, that was a special era. I think it was just new and fresh and exciting, and it was harder to be a band at that time. You didn't have like, not many people had set up. You didn't have like, it wasn't overly saturated like it is now. The bands that you had that had a bit of momentum and like money behind them were able to sort of stand out from the crowd a bit easier. Whereas now it's like there's so many bands. You know, we still had Kerrang, still had Scuzz. That's how you found bands. Expansive now.
Deathcore relies on very, I'm not going to say high-end production, but it sometimes relies on high fidelity production. And obviously with the emancipation of production gear and things being available to more people, obviously it's much easier to make deathcore at home now, essentially. I remember growing up trying to write stuff for Drifted and other bands, and having to just write riffs on Guitar Pro 5, which is great, actually really useful. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then at the same time, you're sending demos to people and it just sounds like Snare's boss fight, which has its place. But having said that, though, I think that's coming from like hardcore and death metal typically, which were obviously in the 80s and 90s probably banded around mostly through underground scene cassette tapes and things, and didn't necessarily have the highest quality production, which isn't a bad thing. But then you get into the MySpace era, people start putting that stuff online. Obviously, that's kind of where deathcore grew.
It was very integral, MySpace.
Shout out We Came With Broken Teeth, and all of those like kind of bands. But they kind of, I think that the crisp elements of production started to come in then, and that was kind of integral to deathcore. Deathcore had a certain sound to it, and if you were a small band, it required a certain production quality to really stand out. It's very clickbaity in a way, isn't it? It's very like, here comes the fucking breakdown. Yeah. Oh my God.
So at the moment, we've got Suicide Silence, Chelsea Grin, Whitechapel. For the only other one that's nailed on for me, not nailed on, but a contender, is Viator's Murder.
Yeah.
They were the top of deathcore for so long. I don't know if I'm a little bit biased with this, because when I was really into deathcore was when they were massive, which was like sort of 2012 to 2015 sort of thing. To be like the top of deathcore for that many years, and even before that they were very big, and they have been around for a while. I think they came out like 2007, something like that. Horse to a Chainsaw.
Yeah, with the Infinite Death EP.
Infinite Death, yeah. They had CJ as well, who was a massive like figure in deathcore. It remains to be seen how they're going to transition with the new vocalist, but even just for their legacy for that long, for me, I think they're up there.
Yeah, I think they had the original To the Hellfire. Do you know what I mean? Reign of Darkness was the original people finding their song on YouTube and waiting for that end bit and being like, what the hell is this? You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so good.
If we consider bands like Suicide Silence, quote unquote first generation, they're not first generation. We're not going to go into this, what isn't certain generation, but let's consider that 2007 like the start. It's weird because Viator's Murder were around them. The Infinite Death EP was great. The Adversary was a great album. It's funny because when I grew up listening to that, it really struck me as more of a death metal album. But it has got those elements. It's got the chugs and everything.
Clicky kicks.
Exactly. I think THALL's heyday was just after with...
Yeah. Hate.
Oh, yeah, hate.
So out of those bands, what bands do you reckon we're missing? Because I can think of a few bands that are sort of around their sort of B tier, like I think Oceano deserve a shout out. Bands that came out a bit later that maybe need to like prove themselves a bit longer.
Yeah, Oceano, like I think you could put Oceano in the top 4 if you wanted.
I don't think they knock out.
I wouldn't put it against you. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold it against you, but comparing to the other 4 we've mentioned, I don't think they quite had the heights of those bands. Well, they definitely didn't.
District of Misery, obviously. Like, again, they have like their song. Do you know what I mean? The song that really like. But yeah, I think that.
But it didn't reach the heights of any of those bands. Even still, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a shame really because I think they were a really good band. Some of their newer stuff's really good as well.
But what other bands?
Again, I think I mentioned the Acacia Strain. I would like, it's one of those weird ones where I would put them in the category, but then like actually when you listen to them, they're not really like strict. They don't have like a huge amount of, they could be other genres very, very easily.
Yeah, they're not true to deathcore. They're a bit more doomy, aren't they?
So a lot of their newer stuff is, yeah. And then actually when they first started out, it was very kind of metalcore. But again, like coming back to bands like As Blood Runs Black, there was a sort of wave of bands in deathcore and metalcore where it was kind of like they were like just kind of metalcore. They were metalcore maybe with like a slightly spookier aesthetic, right?
Like who?
Well, again, As Blood Runs Black, Black Dahlia Murder, All Shall Perish. There's like deathcore bands that are more riffy than they are breakdowny. There's like kind of a little bit of a spectrum. You can sort of create a spectrum.
Yeah, then you have like tech death as well to confuse things further.
For the Faceless, everyone kind of was like, is Planetary Duality a tech death album or is it like a deathcore album?
But it never got to the heights of those other 4 though. So.
No. The Faceless definitely the boys when it comes to like calling it like technical something, right? There's so many deathcore bands that if you put an adjective in front of it, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're the guys.
Yeah.
And like whether they're deathcore or not, you know, the Contortionist, how like Exoplanet has that like progressive element to it, even though they're maybe not strictly deathcore or anything like that. But
none other come to mind for the big 4.
Carnifex.
Yeah, I think they deserve a shout.
But again, like it's not that they're not good enough to be in the big 4. It's not that they didn't have a big enough impact. It's just that there are other bands.
They're dwarfed by comparison.
Yeah, Carnifex are probably the first deathcore band I was listening to back in like. I think I found them in 2008 or 9.
What about Infant Annihilator?
Yeah, so this is the thing. We're definitely focusing on the start, right? We haven't even started talking about anything beyond like the start of it. We've been talking about, again, 2007 to 2012.
Yeah, because I feel like you have to do the time to be the big 4. Unless you just reach stratospheric heights, you can't ignore them. Like if you're talking about biggest hardcore bands, I'd put Not Loose up there because they've had such a big impact, even though they haven't quite done the time compared to other hardcore bands.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Because it's recency bias. Because we're in it right now.
I haven't got recency bias though, because I'm talking about bands that have done the time.
No, but when you were in the Knocked Loose example, that's like the issue there. They've only been going since 2014, and in the timeline of hardcore, that's like not even a third of the time that hardcore's been a genre.
But barely any bands have been on like Jimmy Kimmel as a hardcore band, done a Pig Squeal. Got nominated for Grammy.
Is that a top 4 status for the sake of hardcore? Or is that top 4 for the status for the sake of being a big band?
I don't say they definitely get top 4, but because they've made such a big impact in a short amount of time, if there was a deathcore band that had made a big impact in a short amount of time, then I'd maybe put them up there. I don't think Lorna Shore have quite done that, and also they're not strictly deathcore. Yeah, I'm very cautious in tying your virality to your pedigree as a band. It's a factor, but it's not the be all and end all.
When I'm thinking of this, the scenario I have in my head is like if there was an alternative universe big festival like Download, where every year it's the same fucking headliners, but it was like a deathcore festival instead of like
that's what we need.
80s metal being the biggest sort of genre, like thrash metal and stuff.
I think that's why this is so hard, because we don't really have that.
Yeah. Do I see like a bunch of 70-year-old like Suicide Silences and Theaters Murders like dominating the headline every year?
Like, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to think of as well. That's well said. I suppose the only things we have in comparison is like Impericon Fest and like which Despised Icon have headlined quite a lot.
You haven't mentioned Immure yet.
Immure, yeah, they actually deserve a shout. But again, like I just know instantly Are they as big as any of those 4 bands? No, they're definitely the least. They're not as deathcore as those other 4 bands, I think.
I guess not. But then if you go back to like the Respect issue and Felony, they definitely sounded very, very deathcore to me. But then as they went on, they definitely changed. Speaker of the Dead was not strictly a deathcore album, unique in a lot of aspects.
I think with Amur as well, they are massive in America, and they've kind of broken America, but worldwide, I don't think they're as popular. They're definitely not as popular over here.
Speaking regionally, there's like an argument for Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah,
they're not deathcore anymore. No. They haven't been deathcore for like almost 20 years, but almost by extension are like in the big 4.
They already qualify for so many other sort of big 4s and stuff.
They can't have it all. It's not fair.
I don't think we can include them in this list.
All right. So who are you saying then? Who are we chalking up as being the big 4 of deathcore?
So number 4, I've got to put Whitechapel. I think Philly Bow, for being the sort of king of vocal acrobatics, being such a prominent figure in the scene, them being such a consistent band right up until recently with their latest album. You know, they've had some massive highs and they've just been one of the most consistent bands. So without a doubt, number 4, Whitechapel. Number 3, Chelsea Grin. Similar story. They've been around. They've had a few different vocal changes, but they've still not let that hinder their consistency. They have recruited really well. They've got Tom Barber, who's very immersed in the scene, and Alex Kohler was an excellent vocalist in his own right. They've had some massive songs like Krukabanger, and some of their latest work is some of their best as well. So not only have they done the time, they're also competing at that high level now. Number 2, I'm going to go Suicide Silence. Very similar story. They had Mitch Lucker, who was a very integral part of the scene. They have had some amazing albums, amazing songs. They've been a bit quiet recently, but I think they've done so much in the past that they've got to be up there, that they're in the conversation. They're probably the biggest, really, or they've definitely been the biggest for a certain amount of time. And lastly, Varta's Murder. They have brought out some amazing albums. They had the massive heights of Hate with Reign of Darkness. Sijo is a very integral part of the scene. They're still releasing albums very regularly. I think they deserve to be up there on the big 4.
I'm only just realising now that I think I called To the Hellfire Into the Hellfire in boomer ass fucking. No business like show business.
So now we've got our big 4. Mentioning Whitechapel, what did you think of their latest album?
I'm not gonna pretend that I've listened to it fully yet. I'm too lazy. No, I'm just too disorganized. But what I have heard is really good. It reminds me of a new era of Corruption. I don't want to be one of those people who oh yeah, it's like a return to their previous album. I think it's stylistically different enough, but it reminds me of that album a lot. I think a lot of people will like that it's not got the clean singing that was in The Valley, but I really liked those albums. I think conceptually they were really cool. I think they're doing that in this album as well. I definitely think it's probably worth sitting down, looking at the lyrics and everything, and kind of looking at the themes behind the album.
But first thoughts.
Didn't do my homework.
This is embarrassing.
Didn't do my homework, but I think it's good. Yeah.
Likewise, I can't say I've listened to it fully, but from what I've heard, I really liked how he kind of screams backwards. It sounded really demonic. I like the imagery of the album and how it's kind of a return to heavier stuff, because to be honest, I was quite into Whitechapel when I was first getting into deathcore, and then when they brought out the Flag album, what is it called? The Saw as a Law?
Not by any fault of Whitechapel, but I kind of checked out a little bit then.
Yeah, no, they brought out the Flag album. And I was like, what the fuck is this? It's just not.
You can't even give it a name. Just called it the Flag album.
It didn't hit for me. It was just a bit not what I was after. And Varta's Murder were taking my deathcore plays and Sever the King, and I was just into that heavy shit, and they just didn't quite land for me. But anyway, the new album, I do really like the sound of. I like that they've gone heavier, and it's really good for the scene in general that it's connecting with a lot of people. That's just the way it happens. You need those people at the top of the scene that are your gateway deathcore bands in a way. And the good thing about deathcore is that no one's expecting it to be super accessible. So Whitechapel can still be heavy and still get new people into the scene. I think it's a good positive thing. I want to be on board with it, but I also need to do my homework as well. So
the actual state of us.
But yeah, more up our street. Did you hear Danza's coming back?
Yeah, so I think I saw on Instagram they're doing bits. I know they're playing a couple of shows, or like a show, Furnace Fest.
Yeah, hopefully this means new music though.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
I would like that. I think that Josh Travis has been a huge influence on me in my writing and stuff. Even if the influence has just been, hey man, it's okay if you want to tune your guitar to like the same note as the earth moving through space. Like that's, you know, definitely been a part of it. I really enjoy everything he's ever fucking done. So it's sick. It'd be good if they do come and do stuff if they're in the right headspace.
Imagine if they come back and Josh Travis isn't the songwriter.
It's possible. It's possible.
Did he kind of start that band, or was it? Did he join later?
I don't know. I won't pretend I do. I won't lie to you like that, guys. So going for a long time, like when they were going, you know, 2005. I'm going to guess. You had to put a little infographic if I'm right or wrong.
I see him as just like he's such a pioneer, really. Like his
tour
guitar,
de force.
Yeah, like he really pioneered djent in a way with his guitar and his like 8-string stuff, and then he's just had so many leases of life, like through like everything he's touched has like turned to gold for me. Like everything I checked out, like when I first got into like Danza and then finding Glass Cloud and then him joining Amur, it's just like his track record is, I think Glass Cloud is actually probably my favorite thing he's done, which is quite underrated. Not
after all this time.
See what you did there. Yeah, if you haven't checked out Glass Cloud and you like Amur or Danza, check them out because it's fucking brilliant album, especially the Royal Thousands. That album is elite. It's a little like a hidden gem.
This is the thing, right, with the whole them coming back, and I don't want to, this is going to make it sound like I'm associating it all with Josh, but I'm pretty sure that a little while ago Glass Cloud put something out on their social media.
Did they?
And then it turned out they were just like doing like a reprint of some merch or something, which is fine. Like that's cool. But obviously people are going to be like really excited and be like, oh, what does this mean? And like they're not to blame for that.
They just needed some money really for some weed.
Maybe. Who knows? But like I wonder. But Danza being like, you know, they're playing. They've announced they're playing a show.
I heard that the singer of Danza, the vocalist of Danza, he left the band to be a police officer. I wonder if he's still policing. You're not excited about the new Danza?
A-cab includes Tony Danza, man. No, I'm sorry. Like,
he's trying to get you on the pig side.
No, pig squeals, not pigs. Right. You can fucking do merch for that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I like pigs. Kill fascists. Yeah, no. Yeah, but I imagine you probably know more about the Danza because I'm a Luddite and I hardly even use social media. So like. Yeah. I've only briefly seen that they're playing a show.
There's not much to talk about. Yeah, I think I didn't even know there was a show, to be honest. I just know they changed their social media. They've got some like not infographics. They've got some like visualizers.
They've got some pie charts. A couple of data-driven analyst things going on.
I really hope that Josh Travis has been cooking something up because Amur have been quiet for a while, so maybe that's why he's been working on Danza.
What other bands are there? Do you think that have been quiet for a while? Look at that fucking segue.
Too many bands, especially in this sort of genre, like the sort of heavy djent world. Another one that comes to mind is Volumes. They teased something recently. They've got a new song coming out very soon, so I think they are a band to watch this year. And do you remember the project Vultures? It was going to be Structures and Volumes together. It never happened. It's not too late, guys. Please come back with Vultures. Structures have also been quiet. They released something around a similar time. That was my favorite EP. Like I still listen to it today. It's so very fucking good. The production's amazing.
I feel like I don't know if this is just me assuming things, but I feel like that was not a farewell EP, but that was kind of like they were kind of coming back to just do that, and then that was kind of it. And it's kind of thematic to the EP as well. It's very, very kind of pessimistic about the state of the world, isn't it? And but I don't know, maybe that's just me making stuff up in my head.
I didn't hear that, but yeah, they didn't really play any gigs or anything, and Brendan is sort of just making content now. But it went down really well. Like it's critically acclaimed, and I think that even if you try and hang your hat up and then you come out of an EP that critically acclaimed, surely you're going to want to write more music and release stuff. But yeah, nothing confirmed with that. Just like I think that would be really cool.
It would make us happy if you did
it would make me happy.
So, why not?
Yeah, another band that we both love, The Contortionist. They are in a deep slumber right now.
Speaking of people that talk backwards, like in The Contortionist. Mike Lessard, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really like it if they would put something else out.
2017, I think it was.
I know, it doesn't feel like that long ago, but that was
music. It's because it was so fucking quality.
Hey guys, remember this? It's very, but yeah, it was, yeah, man.
Some people weren't alive then.
They weren't.
Like in that time, an 8-year-old has been birthed.
That's right. You're so right, man. There's an 8-year-old out there that's not fucking discovered the contortionist because they're not putting anything out.
There's an 8-year-old has existed within that time,
and he's not known the joy of
new contortionists.
Of the contortionists announcing they're going to release something. There's a real trifecta in my head. This is a personal canon. There's a real trifecta in my head of 2014 era bands because I used to listen to them all on my shitty walk to work. Language, The Contortionist, The Flesh Prevails, Fallujah, and Lugal Ki En, Rings of Saturn.
Nice.
And they, yeah, I mean, all those bands are kind of doing different things. Rings of Saturn.
Well, they're an instrumental band now, so it's like,
well, yeah,
I do miss the vocals, to be fair.
Yeah, Ian Barrow was great.
He's joined another band now, isn't he? He's joined. Yeah, he's joined. Is it Angel Maker?
I know he had some health complications, I believe.
I think he's joined Angel Maker. Jamie, pull that up.
Ian Barrow to join Angel Maker on vocals 5 months ago.
Let me do that again. Ian Barrow, he's joined Angel Maker.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you know what? I actually saw like a post on Reddit like just a minute ago. I mean, 5 months ago that said that. Yeah.
But yeah, instrumental. They're a bit
instrumental. It's only a matter of time before this fucking episode went to the fucking dogs on it.
Let me do that again. Let me compose myself. Rings of Saturn. They've basically become an instrumental band now, haven't they? Ian Barry. It's not that funny.
No, it's not. But yeah, 2014, all these bands were releasing stuff. Like Fallujah brought out an album, The Contortionists brought out an album, and there are 8-year-olds that don't know that joy.
I know it's a sacrilege.
2014 was 11 years ago, but like
it's an outrage.
But yeah, there's people out there that don't know like what it's like to put a Contortionist album on for the first time and ascend past your body.
I think they've got to release something soon because it's not like they've gone on a hiatus or anything, have they? They're still gigging.
A hiatus.
They've not gone on a hiatus. They've not gone on any. I can't even say it. You know what I mean?
Wait, you can't spell hiatus without 8. And it's been 8 years. I think my prediction is next year they're going to fucking announce something. All right.
I reckon
that's my prediction.
I reckon it's been too long.
Yeah, maybe.
I reckon this year.
But just for the sake of my joke, I'm going to say next year. Fallujah are releasing stuff, though, and that's great. Fallujah are sick, just in the talking about all those 3 bands. But again, that's my headcanon. There's probably people out there who are like, why is he talking about those 3 bands? But for me, they kind of form a trio of
2014.
They're not really that similar at all, but they kind of are in a way. They all have a very sort of sci-fi thing going on. Aliens.
Never sounded more autistic.
No, I'm not. What?
Speaking of heavy music, THALL. It seems to be having a little bit of a resurgence recently.
THALL. I don't think it's a resurgence. I think it's just that it's a weird entity that crawls out of the woodwork anytime Buster opens his mouth. or Carl. Is it Carl? Is it Callie? I don't actually know. I don't want to offend anyone and pronounce names wrong. Mr. Therma. They've got a piece of merch that just describes what THALL is meant to be and actually the weird cultural phenomenon of the word itself. It's very similar. Obviously, it's an offshoot of gent in a way. And
did they coin it?
Yeah, I think.
So what is THALL? I don't actually know. Educate me.
Educate me. It's a genre essentially. Boil it down to string bending. That's kind of
what I hear.
And like by extension of that, maybe microtonal stuff. It's sort of characterized as being kind of an offshoot of gent, I believe.
Where does the word come from?
That's exactly it. It's literally just a word that Viljata used to throw around on forums. It's similar to another word. I think it's like a bastardization of a Swedish word. Okay. But they kind of used to just throw it around as a joke online, and then people started just sort of commenting it on of all their sort of music videos and stuff, and that is still continues now. Viljarta released a single a couple of days ago. You can just go on it, THALL. So
it's crazy how connected Buster is. Was Viljarta the first band to come from it all? How did they weave this tapestry, this foul tapestry?
God, they're a really old band. I think it was like 2005. I think they released Omni Slash, I believe it's called, in 2008. They had definitely had a little cult following then, and then they released Master Dens in 2011. I don't think Buster was a part of it then. I don't think he had anything to do with it. People talk about Buster.
But he's got major FOMO about that.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, that's probably why he re-recorded it.
Definitely.
What nice royalties, mate.
Yes, Buster.
I've heard he's a royalty fiend.
I don't know if you've got any claim. I don't know if you've got any evidence of that. I think
I'm joking. It just appears that way.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with royalties.
And Will,
the band were like, we like the old production, but I wasn't on it. I don't get my royalties. Make me do it again.
I'm not.
Ask me to do it again.
Please.
I'll do it again. I'll just do it again.
Fine. I think he started with Humanity's Last Breath. That's his thing. And then he joined in doing Viljarta.
When did Humanity's Last Breath start?
The 2010 somewhere. I think Buster's got the biggest online presence. Therefore, I think people associate him mostly with Viljarta, but actually it's both of them really, but Cal is definitely, I think he's the artistic flavour behind it. But yeah, I think everything that Buster does though is really cool.
What else? When did the other bands come in?
When you say other bands, do you mean other THALL bands or?
Not particularly, just Buster's Tapestry.
Well, he's a producer, isn't he? He fucking just produces bands.
But he's involved a bit more than that with certain bands, isn't he?
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing like a school test, and you're expecting me to like remember like.
No, I don't actually. I don't know. I'm just asking.
He plays for Throne sometimes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got his fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah. Name them.
Throne, Humanity's Last Breath, Viljarta. He did one of Oceano's albums. I think he's done stuff with Reflections. So's Cal.
That's the one I was trying to remember.
That's the one you wanted me to say.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah, Reflections. Cool smaller bands that he's produced that do really interesting things. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Buster. He's got a very maximalist production style. I think lends really well.
I've heard that word before, maximalist.
Well, time to maximise on your knowledge of that word. But it's
a good word.
I think his production ethos lends really well to writing heavy music.
Maximilian.
Millionaire shortbread. I know Buster's dad is...
Buster sounds like a dog's name, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Buster.
Is it a Swedish name?
No.
I don't know why. I'm talking to you as if I'm interviewing Buster.
Benjamin Oderholm. But yeah, I think his dad is a producer as well. I don't want to throw around nepotism.
His dad is a Saint Bernard.
Yeah. God, this shit can't go in. This is fucking dreadful.
Mother's a great Dane. If Buster was a dog, what dog would he be?
Boxer.
Yeah, it sounds like a boxer. A very intelligent boxer.
I'm never playing a show again. All right. I'm gonna get blacklisted. Well, yeah, we heard you just call fucking people dogs. So
I think it's a great compliment, to be honest.
Yeah, dogs are cool.
Dogs are way cooler than humans. But Buster is pretty cool. THALL, we didn't mention Mirror, who are doing pretty well at the moment. Yeah,
I think there are bands that are beginning to, bands and projects that are beginning to really play on the theme. Mirror are great. No Oath to me. Who again, Mirror and No Oath have worked with Buster, and they both do stuff with him in different.
Makes sense. I mean, who else are you going to go to for THALL?
Yeah, well, No Oath actually did some of the synth work on Humanity Last Breath's.
Oh, that's cool.
Album Ashen.
Is that the one that's kind of like got blood spilled on it? And
God, I think they've all got spit everywhere. I think they've all got stuff spilt on them. It's the latest one. It's got Labyrinthian.
That's a brilliant album. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, it's the first Humanity's Last Breath album that's really sort of clicked with me. The other ones can't say they have as much, apart from the first like EP or like album they did.
Oh,
Detester.
Yeah. with the operatic singer.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah. So who are the big four of THALL?
Well, that's the thing. Is there a big four yet?
No, there probably isn't.
Because I think
it would be Viljarta.
Humanity's Last Breath are in there as well.
You reckon? Are they THALL? I think they purposefully don't sound like Viljarta.
They probably don't because they've got the same producer, like effectively and stuff. So yeah.
Mirror.
Fractalize.
I'd say Reflections as well.
Reflections, yeah.
They've had now 2 albums which could be called THALL. They're not as bendy, but I would put them up there.
This is interesting because we're doing the same. We're applying the same thing we did with the deathcore thing, but with like a genre that's so much like smaller.
Yeah,
it's not. Like, it's still like finding its legs in a way. So like I think there are bands that like people are probably like, are they in the genre? There's bands like Frostbit are doing THALL, but then like I say that I'm like, oh, is there anyone who is it? Who's the four? Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good question.
It was tongue in cheek.
I need to check out some more of those, to be fair. I really like No Oath whenever you showed me any of their songs. All right, so let's do another top 5. I don't know if you've had time to prepare anything, or do you want to prepare anything quickly? I wanted to talk about top 5 underrated bands, underrated heavy bands.
Underrated heavy bands. Here's the thing. I deleted my Spotify recently because they're a disgusting company. But anyway, I'm not going to make everyone feel bad. We're keeping in the theme of heavy. I do think No Oath. I think he's doing some really, really cool stuff, production-wise as well. There's stuff I've never like heard anyone do before. It just doesn't sound like anyone else.
Sounds like Bill Jar to me.
Oh, very well. But yeah, I think that if I listen to something and I can't find anything else that sounds like it, as well as obviously I like it. Yeah. You know, something could not sound like anything else, and it's just like, that's cool, but this is shit. Whereas if this is great, I have to go to them for this because no one else is doing it.
It's harder and harder to find these days.
I would also put a group called Pound there. It's literally just 2 guys, drummer, and I believe he plays guitar, but some of the stuff he does is so fucking mad. I don't know if it's a guitar or not, whether it's like a hybrid guitar bass or if it's a bass. But yeah, they're really, really cool, really heavy. The drummer plays like, I'm going to say he plays 1.5 kits. He'll have like 2 kick drums and 2 snares set up that he switches between.
That's cool.
But again, they're a band that I listen to and no one else sounds like them. If I had to do like, it sounds like this band, I would probably closest to Car Bomb. They're the band, when you go and see bigger bands, you'll see the members wearing like Pound merch. They're like that band. They're your favourite band's favourite weird band.
Interesting. I've never heard of them unless you show me them before.
Fucking check them out, mate.
I'll check them out.
Dead Vectors.
Yeah.
I think that our Mr. Chappie is just so sick. And the way he churns out stuff, and it's all really high quality. I think with heavy music, I find it hard to separate a band just being good and the production. I feel like the production is really intrinsic to what I find good in the band. It doesn't have to be that the production has to be good. What I mean is that the production I have to be like, man, this production really suits what they're going for. And Aaron in Dead Vectors is a great producer, and some of the stuff he gets out of the low end, it's just mad.
I wanted to touch on Aaron a little bit more actually, because I'd say I'll probably put most hours into Sever the King over any other deathcore band. They've just always really done it for me. Like that album, Outbreak, constantly been in my rotation. It's just such a, like, it still holds up, but like back when it came out in 2014, 2015, there was nothing else like it. And I think other bands have caught up a little bit, but back then, like, there was, you couldn't find that groovy, like, particular produced sound, and just everything about it was just hitting on all cylinders.
He was doing the not caring about the nuance of making the guitar sound real. Do you know what I mean? He was like almost midifying the chugs when it was kind of like that's not cool. It doesn't sound real. Like he was doing that, and I think that's cool.
Sounded really sonically pleasing.
Yeah. I think, I
would a bit of Acacia Strain vibe to the vocals and some of the sections as well. Realised that because I didn't really listen to much of Acacia Strain, and then when I heard it, I was like, this kind of sounds like Sever the King. And then I looked it up, and apparently they're one of his biggest influences, and it adds up. That kind of groovy process sound was so fresh. It was fresh for a long time, but now deathcore and heavy music, like there's so many people doing it, and times have moved forward a bit faster. But that being said, Aaron has still like kept up with the time, and the stuff he's doing with Dead Vectors I see as like a continuation of Sever the King. Dead Vector stuff, like they release more music than like any other heavy band, I swear. Like they had like, especially last year, it was crazy.
We're releasing one release a month.
Mental.
For like a whole year. So
it wasn't just like a single, it was like a whole album.
Yeah. Sometimes it was like an EP, sometimes it was like a 20-track album.
Unbelievable.
Bonkers. And they're all consistent. They don't...
No, it's like well thought out, considered, all amazing production. and Kenny does great on the vocals as well. Like his gutturals are intense, like really low quality sound, and he's doing well for himself. He's joined a band called Sentinels now, who also Aaron produced in the past. They're a really cool techie deathcore band. Really happy he's found that gig. But yeah, it's just a shame that more people don't know about Dead Vectors and know about Aaron, because I think he really deserves more recognition and more spotlight. I hope that like Dead Vectors or one of the projects he does gets the well-deserved spotlight on it, because he's been killing it for years, well over like 10, nearly 15 years now. I think that he will get that credit. But if you haven't checked out Dead Vectors, some of our favourites, I think I can speak for both of us. Disconnected EP, amazing EP. It's like based on video games.
I think that people should go and guess. I think they should go and guess what the games are.
Go and guess what the video
Disconnected
games are.
by Dead Vectors, and go and guess what that they're based on.
Quality EP. It's just I love what he did with that. Then Weapon as well. That album's brilliant. Such a good album. Really cool guitar tones. Just interesting production. Really groovy. And then they've got loads of other good stuff. So it's a gold mine of deathcore.
It is. By extension of that as well, Pathogen.
Yes, Pathogen.
Null Space was
my God. Got to be one of the most underrated deathcore albums ever.
It's almost like the in-between of Sever the King and Dead Vectors. You can see that obviously Aaron started to work with Kenny and others in that band, and then they went on to do Dead Vectors. But it's funny because I don't know how active they are, because they're obviously doing Dead Vectors. I don't know if they're planning on doing anything.
The guitarist, I think his name's Connor. He does Tyrant. They are releasing stuff. Yeah. They're really cool. But I don't think the rest of the band are really doing too much. Besides, obviously, Kenny, he's always doing shit, and Aaron, the producer. But those three are very active. Ones to watch for this year, I'd say.
Obviously, we started this by saying Dead Vectors is an underrated project. I think I would extend that to just anything that Aaron touches is underrated. He's on stuff, he produces stuff, he writes for stuff, whatever, and then it just doesn't get the credit I think it deserves.
He needs to find someone that is just good at the marketing side and getting themselves out there.
Needs to get a sugar
daddy. Yeah, needs to get a sugar daddy.
Speaking of producers, we've talked a lot about producers like Buster and Aaron, but your boy John Poltergeist.
Yes.
Great. Sick.
Brilliant producer, good. Yeah. His EP he brought out as well is really solid. I got a lot of plays out of that. Quality EP. Yeah. Really good work on that. And did he work with a band you played with as well, Pulse?
Yeah. yeah. So I am. It's funny because I'm kind of in Pulse, but sort of not. I like kind of like a fair weather member of Pulse.
The sixth beat.
They just kind of just say like, "Oh, we're playing a show," and I go and play drums for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I know of John and his production is through Pulse.
Are you playing with them soon?
Yeah. I don't fucking remember when. There's a show. I don't know what's been announced. There's a show in May. If you like Pulse, I don't know which one it is, but they're cool. Playing Mangata Festival in July. But yeah, they released something recently. It's really fun stuff to play live. Very sporadic though. They don't like to stay on one section for too long. No. The hooks, no.
Hot potato, switch to verse.
That is, but that's great. I like it.
I love that shit, man. Yeah, it gets boring when it's just, especially in heavy music.
You don't need to make money in music. Stick what you want. What are your sort of top 5 underrated heavy bands?
So number 5, I'm going to have to go Frontiera. They're not super underrated, but they are so good. They deserve more eyes on them. They're from Scotland and they have 4 whammy pedals on between 2 guitarists. And
vocalist is from America.
Oh, vocalists from America.
But yeah, they're the split team.
The other 2 from Scotland. I like to think of them all as Scottish for some reason. But yeah, I've seen them live a few times actually. They crush it live. It's just such chaos. The album they brought out a few years ago, Oxidized, unbelievable album. It's one of the heaviest things I've ever heard. It's actually quite challenging to listen to. Crazy guitars, sounds, and just chaos. There's barely any dynamics in it. It's just all 4 to the floor. It's not even 4 to the floor. It's just all just absolute carnage. If you want something just ridiculously heavy, check out Frontiera. Number 4, Newcomer. So they are a newcomer to the scene, and oh my god, they just embody this chaos. They remind me a little bit of System of a Down, the way they're they're just so wacky and out there. They have different vocalists chiming in. It's kind of it's avant-garde hardcore, I would say. It's just just ridiculous vocals, just weird kind of Brazilian dance beats, and then
shout out the Dominican Beastie Boys.
The Dominican Beastie Boys. That's their name. Yeah,
Aaron is on there. He produces a lot of their stuff as well.
Does he?
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. Well, when you listen to it now, you'll be like, oh, of course.
Of course. Yeah. They are a really exciting band to listen to. Like if you want something a bit wacky and zany and still brutally heavy, they are definitely one to check out. Number 3, I'll go with Pulse. I actually really do rate Pulse.
Oh, I gotta say, in a contract of impartiality on this one.
They are like just my cup of tea. Like that, they kind of embody that sort of like UK like loathe / kind of like new metalcore vibe, isn't it? It's kind of like chaotic, groovy, but heavy. Like they're a bit like Graphic Nature as well. They're kind of like, yeah, they got that like heavy groove, and the vocals are kind of rhythmic, and they've got lots of like details and groove and heaviness, and the production's really good as well. I really rate Pulse. I really want to see you guys live, so I will come to the where's the May show?
Birmingham, maybe.
I'll come to a Pulse show for sure. Number 2, Dali Thundering Concept. Shout out Dali Thundering Concept. They are a French kind of gent band. Really amazing production, and just like, I can't believe how underrated they are. Like they sound like $1 million. Like their production's amazing. They stayed at my house one time in uni actually, and they gave me a pick and a signed album. I gave them showers, and I didn't actually bathe them.
I showered them.
It's my claim to fame.
The Dali showering concept.
I don't know how to describe Dali. Like they're just super like interesting, proggy, but like still pack a punch. They don't really, especially their latest album, they barely leave any time to breathe. It's just like super upfront in your face. I just love the different sections they include. They're really creative, really creative band. And number 1, Dead Vectors. I've got so much use out of this. They're just a constant go-to whenever I want something heavy. You can always rely on them to release new music. Like last year, they had a belter of a year, releasing like a ridiculous amount of albums. Aaron Chaparian, super underrated producer. Everything he touches like turns to gold. Amazing songwriting and riffs, and it just really clicks with me whenever I hear a new Dead Vector song, and anything Aaron Chaparian does.
Oh yeah.
That's my top 5. All right, so let's talk about bands to watch for this year. So we're still towards the beginning of 2025. What are some bands that come to mind?
I think Viljar about to release an album. Like all the singles from it have been sick. And obviously the kind of the meme with Viljar is they spent a long time having not released anything. They released Thousands of Evils in 2013, then didn't release Mastodon Under Vatten until 2021. They released a single in 2019.
Wow.
But I mean, to have like 6 to 8 years of everyone being like, please release music, and all they were doing was putting little riffs on SoundCloud and things, which I enjoy that. I do enjoy the kind of like almost nonchalant releasing of little riffs here and there. I think that's going to be a really good album. I think it's going to be really unique. Even just the style of the kind of aesthetic they have artwork wise and stuff. Very folk, almost like heavy Moomins, which is so juxtaposed with the kind of music they write. Again, they're a band that you can really get stuck into. I really dig Psychoframe.
Yeah.
I think Psychoframe are great. I think they really hit the nail. There's this kind of, we talked about Deathcore earlier, and there is a kind of, it's gotten to that, it's old enough now that people are starting to do the nostalgia thing.
Yeah.
People are starting to try and chase the MySpace era sound. Psychoframe, it's almost like, what if Suicide Silence never stopped doing the cleansing? Yeah, great. Just ridiculous baked bean tin fucking snare sound. Great shit. They released a couple of singles recently, so I reckon they're going to release more soon. I don't know though.
They're super satisfying to listen to. They're one of those bands that you put on and you know that like every second of the track is just going to be like ear candy and like that heavy like dose of heaviness, and they just really scratch that itch of that kind of older sounds, and they really do it justice. I think as soon as I heard them I was like, I dig this, like this is definitely a bit of me. Another one to watch, they recently got back together, played a show with Not Loose actually, God Complex, UK band as well. They really blew up in lockdown, had a really successful album, and then they broke up, and then I think by popular demand really, I think you kind of predicted this as well, because you were like looking at their monthly listeners, you were like, this is crazy how many monthly listeners that this dead band have.
Well, yeah, because they weren't a fresh band, as in like they'd released stuff recently, but then they weren't active, and they sort of, yeah, I mean, unless someone's paying for things behind the scenes, you never know. But like they've signed to Sharptone and stuff, and they've come out the gate swinging again. I sound like a football commentator. Yeah, but I really like them. I think that
I like their latest singles as well.
Yeah, the EP they've just released is great.
I didn't know it was an EP.
Oh, for God's sake, man. I think Shout out to your boy Eric, who produces them. Eric Bickerstaff in Low. They've got a real like aggressive sound. I feel it feels like they're almost just taking the piss a bit. Like they're not, but it like their sound is so raw and yet they're just so good. So not to say that you can't be raw and good, but you know. Another one to look out for. I mean, they've recently released an album and stuff. So I wonder whether less so that you should look out for their releases, but more go and see them at shows. Harriet, my God, man, like
that's a good shout. They're
a band who I think no one is really thematically doing what they're doing. They feel like they've got a very dark fantasy dungeon aesthetic to them that no one is kind of hitting. And the music really reflects that. It's got industrial elements to it, but they're just heavy as shit. Heavy as fucking shit.
Yeah, I love her screeches. Like,
yeah, Debbie's great.
Debbie, yeah, her seeing them live was unbelievable as well. Like the control she has of her Jackson guitar and like the feedback, and then to do that along with the vocals is just like the musicianship there is crazy. Like really inspiring stuff and a really cool band as well. Like I need to check out their latest album a bit more.
It's really good.
For God's sake.
Devoured by the mouth of hell. Devoured by the mouth of not checking things out. Yeah, her vocals contrast really well with Jake's vocals in the band. The fact that she can get her scream so high and he gets his low so low, it's just really satisfying.
Another band, Neverwalker. How fucking sick are they? Like, for me, that they seem like a modern Infant Annihilator. I don't know if they play live, but it sounds so ridiculous. I don't know how they would. I just love that they have no boundaries of how technical and stupid and ridiculous they'll go. Yeah, it's just a really exciting sort of journey, like ADHD satisfying listen. Like it's super technical and brilliant. Yeah, every song I've heard by them, I don't think they have many songs because every song probably has the amount of a normal metal band's like album in one song. Like it's that technical. Really crazy band. I don't know much about, I don't follow them on social media, I just see their stuff on Spotify, but definitely give them a follow because yeah, whatever they release is just like a magnum opus. Like they just don't miss. Every song is brilliant. Another band that I've been really liking, less technical but still very heavy and raw, is a band called Half Me. I really like their aggressive kind of sound. Like the vocals in particular are crazy good. Like they have a lot of songs about addiction and sort of like very dark themes, a bit kind of like Alpha Wolf, Dealer, that sort of kettle of fish, but they do bring something new to the table. I think they're a little bit more raw, a little bit more sort of all bets are off, like not quite sure what the next section is going to be. They do have cleans as well, but I think they incorporate them really creatively. But yeah, super heavy band, not so much underrated, but band to look out for. I don't know what's going on, but it's two bands like Disembodied Tyrant and Synestia, but that album like just busted onto the scene. Was it last year?
The Poetic Edda.
The Poetic Edda. What an album that is. I'm really excited to hear more of that. I hope if it is that was a collaboration.
Yeah, well, Disembodied have released another EP since then, and they've released a single recently too.
Well, now I sound stupid.
It's very politically charged. It's good.
Is it as good as Poetic Edda? Surely not.
Well, Poetic Edda was more, I mean, it's a complete package, wasn't it? And there was a lot of cues from a lot of classical music like Vivaldi and stuff like that. But I think there's like parts of it that is just Vivaldi. I think it is parts of the Four Seasons or something.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the theme. If I'm correct, that is the theme behind it. I think it's 4 different tracks that are almost like the Four Seasons as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the theme.
I think that wraps up today's episode.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed this. I wouldn't usually do podcast stuff.
You really suit it as a white male.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, man.
No, it's been good having you on. Thanks for educating me on THALL and heavy music.
The blind leading the blind.
Thanks for sticking around to the end on today's heavy edition of the Metal Lounge. If you liked it, give us a like and think about subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.